On June 20th, 1912, a group of Milanese entrepreneurs gathered on top of Monte Tre Croci near Varese to celebrate the opening of the Grande Albergo Campo dei Fiori, a grand hotel planned by modernist architect Sommaruga at an altitude of 1100 meters, offering elite tourists a breathtaking view of the plain, from the slopes of Campo dei Fiori to the lakes, from the Prealps to Milan. A year after the 50th anniversary of Italy's unification, the hotel exhibited the nation's commitment to modernity and bid for renewal, as seen in similar monumental projects over the previous decades, like the opening of the Transalpine tunnels of Fréjus, Gotthard and Simplon, which made the country more accessible from continental Europe, and the building of grand hotels in Stresa, Sanremo, Venice and Rimini, which gave form to a new tourism, no longer aimed at humanists, artists and intellectuals, as in the old format of the Grand Tour, but rather at bourgeois travelers in search of recreation. The hotel also embodied the new energy of the industrial age and its surplus of wealth, which had made it possible for people to travel, take time off to vacate from life necessities, and create the modern experience of vacation. In this context, Italy's and Europe's first kilometer-high hotel ultimately represented the imposing projection of the Belle Époque's dream of greatness, as well as the confident expression of a new ownership of time and space. Despite its premises, the hotel, however, would have a short golden age and would gradually lose appeal during the 20th century, ending up as an abandoned ruin on top of the mountain. Its grand opening, only 2 months after the ominous sinking of the Titanic, nonetheless marks a significant watershed in Italian pre-war culture, revealing a shift in the nation's attitude toward the Alpine space. As a cable railway brought tourists to the hotel for the inauguration, ascending a mountain appeared for the first time as an effortless act, and no longer as a risky endeavor or a broken taboo. Similarly, as the hotel made the mountain a site of recreation, the Alps legitimately became an accessible destination for vacation, and no longer an insurmountable obstacle or a symbol of natural hardships. Until the 19th century, climbing a mountain was an odd intellectual endeavor, like the one that once moved the poet Petrarch to ascend Mont Ventoux in 1336, or a strictly scientific activity, like the one that moved the naturalist de Saussure to commission the first climb of Mont Blanc in 1786. In the mid-19th century, the Alps became the grounds of discovery for experts, adventurers, and photographers, who formed mountaineering clubs like the Club Alpino Italiano in 1863, organized missions to reach alpine peaks like the 1865 conquest of the Matterhorn by Edward Whymper, and visually charted its unbeaten sites like the alpine photographer Vittorio Sella. By the turn of the new century, the Alpine movement had turned mountain climbing from a scientific endeavor aimed at taking measurements of air pressure and temperature into a recreative alpinism as a form of self-challenge, an aesthetic experience, and later an international sport. Born in Milan in the year 1900, Vitale Bramani was imbued with the energy of his time. As he grew up looking at the Prealps surrounding the city, he mentally climbed the peaks he could see from the plain, moving with his eyes from the east, from the Grigna and Resegone near Lecco, to the west, to the Campo dei Fiori near Varese, of course topped by its Grande Albergo. He began his mountaineering career at 17 in Lecco, from that Grigna which Manzoni had pictured in the departing eyes of Lucia in the famous farewell to the mountains of his novel The Betrothed. The same mountain would later start the journey of Italy's most renowned alpinist, Walter Bonatti. When Bramani first climbed the Torrione Magnaghi of the southern Grigna in 1917, alpinism, intended then as an ability to find passages, design paths, and mine tunnels, was a valued war-related skill, as the Alps had become the battlefield of Italy's war with Austria, the so-called White War, Guerra Bianca, which spanned from the Lombard glaciers of Bernina and Adamello, not far from Lecco, to the Dolomites and the northeastern border. Against this backdrop, 17-year-old Bramani's first mountain ascent had to do with something different. For the young man, climbing related instead to the freedom of the outdoors and to sports. Not just as the expression of a healthy mind in a healthy body, but rather as an entrepreneurial mentality that stressed new values like self-discipline, ambition, conquest, strategy, and initiative. Mountaineering became a sport in the 1920s and 1930s, when the Alps became the chosen site for the first Winter Olympics in Chamonix in 1924, and a sought-after location for epic conquests, like the ascent of the Matterhorn's North Face in 1931 or the Mont Blanc's Grand Joras in 1935. While continuing to cultivate his passion, Bramani began his entrepreneurial venture around this time, in 1927. Investing in the mountain as a new destination for middle-class vacations, in alpinism as a growing outdoor culture, and in sports as a space of performance, freedom, and fashion. Yes, fashion. Now, by chance, 1 year later, fashion pioneer Elsa Schiaparelli opened the store Schiaparelli pour le Sport in Paris, identifying in sports a privileged platform to develop new feminine and urban codes. Similarly, Vitale Bramani and his wife Maria Fasana had opened their own sports shop in Milan's Via della Spiga, in the vicinity of Via Monte Napoleone, now a famous street of Milanese fashion, and the trendy Galleria Vittorio Emanuele. Drawing from his initials, which he had used to sign articles for the magazine of the Club Alpino Italiano, Vitale Bramani simply called it ViBram. It didn't take long for the shop to become a key meeting place for the Milanese bourgeoisie, as aspiring mountaineers searched it for climbing accessories and yearned for a community of fellow alpinists, as also hinted in the association of ViBram with the Italian verb bramare. As a guide for the Società Escursionisti Milanese, Milan's hiking society, and a member of the Club Alpino Italiano, which awarded him a medal in 1933, Bramani had gained a solid reputation and often led his clients on excursions on nearby mountains. In one of them, as he guided climbers to Punta Rasica near Mount Bernina, his group was caught off guard by a sudden weather change, and due to the heavy fog and intense cold brought on by a severe snowstorm, 6 companions died on their way back to a refuge. It was September 15, 1935. 2 weeks later, on October 2nd, Mussolini announced Italy's war campaign against Ethiopia. As Bramani pondered what had caused the tragedy, he determined that his friends could have been saved from hypothermia and frostbite if they had worn a different kind of footwear. Climbers at the time wore felt-bottom shoes which were not insulated against cold and became very slippery in wet conditions. As he began his quest for new boots, Bramani first replaced heavy iron spikes with stronger rubber spikes. And as he gained the backing of tire producer Leopoldo Pirelli, a client of his, he developed a new sole, adopting vulcanized rubber, a compound invented by Charles Goodyear, and cutting it with a unique pattern. 2 years later, in 1937, he successfully tested his sole with fellow alpinist Ettore Castiglione when he climbed the northwest face of Pizzo Badile, not far from Punta Rasica, the site of the tragedy. Bramani's rubber sole, which he called Carrarmato tank, was a self-standing object. Rubber offered him not just an insulating element, which he transferred from telegraphic cables or pneumatic tires to human walking, but also a dynamic surface, allowing him to achieve unparalleled grip by way of its functional design. Featuring a radial crown, which replaced metal nails, and central cross-shaped nails, which granted robustness and self-cleaning. The sole also had an aesthetic component, both in the crosses, which mirrored the floor decorations of Milan's Galleria, and in its name, tank, which associated its qualities of stability, durability, and traction to the empowering experience of walking in uncharted lands and crossing the most dangerous slopes. When Bramani launched it in 1937, the sole also acquired a military connotation, a year after Italy's invasion of Ethiopia and the signing of the Steel Pact. The Carrarmato would be later adopted by the Italian army in World War II, and as Allied bombs fell near his Milanese shop, it would allow Bramani to stay in business during wartime. In 1947, Bramani converted his store into a company, moved his manufacturing facility to Gallarate, and designed the brand's new logo, which paid homage to Milan with its octagonal shape, mirroring the central vault of Galleria Vittorio Emanuele. I invite you to find Bramani's yellow logo in all kinds of shoes today. Bramani's shift from his experience as a mountaineer to his new path as an entrepreneur would be ratified in 1954, when a group of Italian climbers wearing ViBram rubber soles reached the summit of the Himalayas K2, giving the brand international recognition. Walter Bonatti was among them. 3 years later, as ViBram continued to grow, Bramani moved his manufacturing facility to its current site in Albizzate near Varese, getting closer to that Grande Albergo which he once gazed upon with awe as a child, and which now looked like an empty shell of its original dream. Over the following years, Bramani's company gave full form to his different vision of the mountain, which he had nurtured since his youth, defining a new quality standard of safety and reliability for the outdoors, and making the Alpine space accessible to everyone, and not just to high-end tourists in luxury hotels. After his death in 1970, his family took over the business. The company entered the American market in 1978 when US climber Jim Whittaker ascended Mount Everest with ViBram equipment and established itself as a world leader in high-performance rubber soles, partnering with shoe brands, exporting licenses for athletic, casual, and military footwear, and designing new models for water sports. Almost 9 decades after its invention, the Carrarmato is still ViBram's signature product, and is regarded among the most remarkable innovations of 20th century Italian design, and the energy of Vitale Bramani continues to inform the life of his impresa. Two intuitions make him a continuing inspiration for his grandchildren Marco and Silvia, who now run the business. One, his ability to see the independent identity of a hidden part as a performance enhancer and value creator. And two, his understanding of the sole as a design object, which, like a tire or pasta, implies the intentionality of kneading. The impasto or the compound is still a trademark secret. The precision of cutting, guaranteeing consistent quality, and the aesthetics of patterns, achieving performance in results and look. These two ideas still inform the company's business, which promotes soles as a self-standing design product for individual clients and partnering brands. ViBram's soling and resoling centers offer customers the possibility to enhance or repair shoes, fostering a singular approach to sustainability and circular economy. Its designs of uniquely patterned soles for partnering footwear brands allows the company to augment their value and oversee the ad hoc production of about 200 new styles a year, from initial design to in-house manufacture and testing. From a conceptual point of view, Vitale Bramani's unique understanding of the relationship between the human body and natural space finds expression in 3 key projects that ViBram has developed over the last decades. The first, which I'm sure you have seen, is the FiveFingers, a foot glove launched in 2004, which mirrors the vision that Bramani had outlined in a 1935 article for the magazine of Club Alpino Italiano when he expressed his admiration for alpine guides who climb barefoot. The second project, the Furoshiki wrapping sole, modeled on Japanese square handkerchiefs and awarded the Compasso d'Oro in 2018, transformed the sole into an ergonomic interface, guaranteeing personal fitting and transferring Bramani's idea of the sole as the only layer between the earth and you, from the natural milieu to urban streetwear. The third project, which I had the pleasure of testing during my visit to the headquarters in Albizzate, is the Arctic Grip, a winter footwear expanding on the Mega Grip technology, which provides unparalleled traction on wet and icy surfaces. I assure you that no words can describe the mind-blowing experience of steadily walking on ice without any minimal slip. This leads me to a final consideration. While the power of ViBram certainly consists in the quality of its sole, Its appeal lies in the cultural construction of rubber as a polyvalent concept. A few words can define its multiple meanings. Certainly grip, duration, and traction, which apply to mountain climbing, outdoor excursions, boating, and cycling, but also safety, authenticity, and performance, the sense of security and control in unknown territory, unmediated contact with nature as a learning experience, a journey of self-discovery, and a form of respect, and performance as self-improvement, the outcome of quality, as well as the embodiment of a confident sense of self, whether on a mountain or on a street. What Bramani ultimately invented then is a new relationship with the outdoors, focused on a new self, not as a supreme owner and dominator of the natural space, as once symbolized in the Grande Albergo Campo dei Fiori, but rather as a humble, secure, and adventure seeker, always daring to aim higher, always ready to walk slippery slopes, and always striving to reach meaningful heights, filling life with wonder, gratitude, and beauty. To achieve this, one must start from a solid grip. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this presentation, I invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel or to the webpage www.italianinnovators.com to receive notifications of new episodes. You can also follow me on my LinkedIn profile or on Instagram at Italian Innovators for additional materials about the show. Thanks again, arrivederci e alla prossima.